And we are live.
We are live.
Hey, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks.
Has been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your patience. It was kind of cool to get emails from, actually, emails and a couple of Facebook messages about our need to take a little break last week, which we did, which is the beauty of running our own show.
Yeah.
Without a network, without all this corporate.
We are beholden to no one.
Yeah, that's a great position.
Other than each other.
That's right. And he's tough to,
listen,
he holds my feet.
I bring coffee. That's all that matters.
He does bring coffee. Sometimes we need it too.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm waiting for that 1 week where, and we've had two.
Okay.
Just 1 week that really, wow, we had to dig for really current events to talk about, but not. No. So I want to maybe change things up for a second. Have you given any thought, Rocco, about what the coming months is going to bring in regards to the tradition of presidential debates?
Oh, who the fuck? Great. No idea. Who the fuck knows? Who? I don't even know where
to have any.
I mean, if Biden is the candidate, how the fuck is that dude going to debate anybody? I mean, not to sound like an asshole. Truly, it's not meant to be an asshole statement or a political statement. It's just his mental capacity is diminished substantially. How can you imagine him on stage with a Trump? No. Trump won't let him speak.
Pretty much.
I mean, you saw, was it 2 weeks ago where he lost his shit on the one reporter and totally just got angry. He's not in the condition to debate. Well, they've got to replace him at some point.
But if you even take the two individuals running and take the personalities aside for a second, it's almost to the point where I know there's no law. It's just tradition. But it's almost like the American people deserve to see some kind of format where exchange of ideas between the two candidates are there. I mean, I know it's not a law. I know it's not a requirement, but it almost kind of somewhat should be, I think.
You think common sense should dictate that? Yes. Hey, I want to run the country, but I'm not going to tell you anything that I want to do. That doesn't make any fucking sense. We should have debates, right? We should. But again, when you get into a situation where literally they're the two oldest candidates to ever run for president, other than the two that ran last election, which were them. Literally, when you think about that, they're so old. And again, I'm not, saying they're not qualified. Well, I mean, I could say probably one isn't qualified anymore, but it's come on, there has to be some level of debate. That's the whole point of it, to challenge the ideas of one another.
But how is the public going to be fully informed if they don't hear it from the candidate's own mouth?
Let me ask you the question. Do you think the public is ever fully informed or cares? I mean, the
second part is scary.
That's the scarier part of the election process. I believe there's probably a small portion of society that is informed and wants to be informed. I think the majority, I had this conversation yesterday with someone, I can't remember who, but it was they'll just take it at face value. And I was that sounds about right. I'm going to go with that. And that's where we are in this country. No one wants to do that thinking.
It's we've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating, I believe. The cult of personality is so strong in today's society. Yeah, it's a great song, Living Color.
Yeah.
1989, Vernon Reid. I continue?
I was 12.
Sorry, it's some Rain Man when it comes to music stuff. Yeah, the cult of personality is so strong, I think, and so entrenched in our culture that we've now deluded ourselves under the guise that we must, whatever one we're leaning toward, whatever makes us feel better based upon hopefully our internal philosophy, maybe for some other reason, but whoever candidate we're leaning toward, we now have to run and grab them and hug them and declare they are our best friend, and we believe everything. We're not looking at the process even remotely close to anything regarding pragmatism. We're not you can absolutely not like both candidates, but making conscious decision that this particular candidate tends to say more of what I believe is closer to my own personal constitution or philosophy. I need to go here, even though I'm not really that great on the candidate. So you're voting on principle. You're not voting on the man. We are voting too much on the man.
I agree.
And I think people are defending
Mhm.
or extolling the virtues of
Yep.
someone that they know is extremely flawed.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we vote for the person, not the platform.
100%.
Or the person, not the policies. Like that's really it. And it's not a
100%.
popularity contest.
It's not a sophisticated way of crafting your vote.
No, I mean even when Trump won in 2016, I think people just voted for him because he was different than everybody else.
Mhm.
Some people cared about the policies, but I think the people that voted for him, and the reason why he got is he was the anti-establishment.
Mhm.
Like he spoke to people that weren't spoken to in the past, and people voted for the person. And then it came 2020, people voted for not that person. Like that's what I believe the Biden vote was. It was not necessarily a vote for Biden. It was a not Trump vote. So it wasn't about Biden's platform or Trump's platform. It was 2016. It was about the person. 2020 was about not that person. Like that's how I look at it.
COVID was probably
that's a whole other piece
too.
of it. That's definitely part of it.
But now you have another series of years, 4 years later, and now we have a decision to make. Do we try to wrap our arms around and extol the virtue of the candidate closest to our Constitution internally, or do we look at it and I mean, I actually would have respect for someone who spent the time and decided to sit it out, or on this particular race did not cast a vote if that was what they felt was more true to themselves.
I agree. Yeah, 100%.
I don't view that as being anti-American.
No.
If you ignore the system completely,
correct,
I don't think that's very helpful. But
and if you don't vote, don't complain.
Oh, 100%.
Like that's what I always say. Like I always say
that'll never happen though.
I've had that discussion with many people. I'm like, they'll bitch about shit. Like, did you vote?
Yeah.
Like, well, my vote doesn't matter. I'm like, well, yes, it does. Because if everybody thought that way, nothing would get done.
Yeah.
So if you are that person, how many other people are like you that are thinking the same way? And we have to change that.
Yeah, it's like we would be better off as the voting citizenry. I messed up that word. If we just would understand the vote is based upon our own philosophy of what we think is best for America, and not some kind of fictitious love that we feel obligated to give a candidate, the cult of personality. We need to separate the person from the policy / philosophy.
Here's the problem. Ask 10 people on the street how many people know what their philosophy is. Like that's when you think about it, like that's when you break it down. Like if you ask really 10 people across the spectrum, right? Like no one demographic, like just a swath of society, 10 people, I guarantee you 6 or 7 of those people don't have a fundamental philosophy that drives their decisions. Truly believe that. 'Cause I think developing a personal philosophy that then translates into a political philosophy or a country philosophy takes a lot of work, takes a lot of thought, takes a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery. I don't think people do that. I think we get so caught up in the movement of society, in the rapid pace of information. What's the new thing? What's this? What's that? That we're not taking the time to understand what is our philosophy? What is driving my decisions? And if more people understood what drove their decisions, I think voting would be a lot different.
It's just easier, I think, to just grasp onto a certain issue that makes us feel a certain way,
right,
or a certain comment by a certain candidate that makes us feel a certain way.
Correct.
Maybe vote the opposite direction. But we have this in great swaths of Americans that I feel based on social media. I feel it. There is that cult of personality that we somehow have to be deluded in embracing the person we're voting for, because that's what we're supposed to do. In reality, if you're not feeling that, you can recognize the differences you may have with this person. However, they are extolling philosophies that are more centered to what you believe. And that's the reason you're casting your vote. Not because you believe this person is a fantastic human. You don't have to pretend. And I think a lot of Americans are pretending. And I see it on the left and the right. I see people that have a real fundamental problem with Donald Trump, some of Donald Trump's behavior, feeling compelled to throw their hand and embrace the man. No one's requiring you to do that, and vice versa. In regards to Joe Biden, I think a lot of people defending his age and defending the record or whatever, they feel they must do that. and when you step back and look at it, Rocco, and you see it a lot on social media, you don't need to embrace the human. It's a flawed human being there. And we happen to have two very obviously very flawed humans running right now. It really is about, what do you believe is the best direction overall for the country?
But that's not how the system works. Like that's how the system is perceived to work, right? When you think about it, like the media is only talking about the men or the candidates, right? They're not talking about the policies.
Bingo.
So they're putting it out there in people's minds. It's got to be this person or this person, not what this person stands for or what this person stands. Like think about, just look at the networks, right? Fox is attacking Biden, or MSNBC attacks Trump. Not necessarily Biden's policies or Trump's policies. That's collateral damage, but I think they attack the men or the individuals that are running. So we as people, if you're not doing that second level thinking, you believe that, well, I'm voting for a person. Like because the media is telling me this person is good, this person is bad. So it must not be the policies. They just equate it. If my team says this person is good, their policies got to be good. If they say this person's a piece of shit, their policies are a piece of shit. When Biden may have good policies, Trump may have good policies. But if I'm not inclined and open-minded enough to listen and trying to determine what's real, what is reality, it's not going to happen.
That's a great point too. I just don't know where we lost our want to really understand who we're voting for.
Do you think we ever had it?
I do think I don't think we've had it in entirety, but I think before the internet age, not social media, the internet age in general, I do think that there was more discussion amongst Americans, actual discussions on politics at coffee shops, at barber shops, at town halls, whatever. But I think that those discussions have translated to the virtual world, and some of the audiences are not real curated and don't really, I don't think, inform in a way that's helpful. Meaning, I think there was a lot of genuine human discussion before the internet, and I would imagine you can extend that to politics about who you vote for, ideas. You waited for events to happen where you could learn more about candidates. Under this 24/7 crazy news cycle of multiple outlets, information being bombasted at you, I don't know if we still have that want to seek out the questions we have inside, because we're just getting barraged by stuff all the time.
I think we have the want. I think we can't decipher from the amounts of information coming. That's the problem, right? So I think, yes, take before the internet age, right? People had discussions. I believe I was a kid, so I don't know. Like, you're way older than me, so
not way older than you. You're not way older than me.
Kidding. I had to throw it in there.
Damn.
But I think, but I remember, like, when I was in college, right? Like, that was the first time I voted. I remember, like, talking to my fraternity brothers, and like, I didn't really know what I was doing when I was voting. And then I had very political fraternity brothers that said, "Oh, you got to vote this way, you got to vote this way," and just listening to people, right? Having actual discussions. As the internet age came on and social media, now the information is coming at you so fast.
Right.
Like I want to still ask the question, but I find it hard sometimes I'm just like, fuck this, I'm done. Like, I don't want to listen to anything anymore because there's so much. Like, I very rarely watch the news now because every channel I turn on, it's just spin. It's just sensationalism. There's no real journalism anymore.
No,
like there's no real. So I've got to discern it anyways.
Isn't it interesting too? Like, I've noticed that real journalism seems to be attacked now.
It absolutely is. You're like, oh, you can't ask the questions that matter. Like, no, that's not how this works. You've got to only ask the questions that make me feel good or that make me look good. Like, that's really, I mean, because again, we're back on, we got to protect feelings. Like, no, like, journalists are meant to uncover facts,
right?
Uncover the shit, right? Regardless of how that makes you feel. If you do something that's fucked up, it's the journalist's job to find it.
Yeah.
Too bad. Don't do fucked up shit. Like, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah. It's and that goes to the point where, you mentioned earlier, people are not spending time understanding what their personal philosophy is and how that can evolve and change you as a human. And are we even cognizant of what we believe? So we can say, oh, okay, well, this seems to be a moderate to left-leaning principle that's important to me. But I have to weigh that against these other things over here. Like I can't imagine most Americans are sitting down and reflecting that deeply. I'd love to believe we are. I would love to believe that we are in our own feelings and making the decisions and say the personality of the candidates mean nothing to me. My question is, where do they stand on these where do they state they stand on these policies? And I'm going to collectively look at the buckets, and this bucket's heavier over here to the right. So I guess I'm going to vote this way, irregardless of the politician. But all we care about now is what these politicians say. Their brother did this, their uncle did this, their business is this, and this. I mean, everything is about them as people.
Yes, that's exactly
that is so really insignificant to the broader picture.
Right. But I'll play devil's advocate, and I can see why that matters to some people, right? Because take the whole Trump thing. Like they said, well, he's not presidential. And my position was, okay, he's a smart businessman. He had good policies. But I also understand that there is, if you rise to that level and you're representing us on a world stage, there is a level of presidentialness you have to have. So I understand why
or
the person
in the past.
Yeah, like why the person does matter.
Okay.
The person shouldn't be the deciding factor, what the person stands for. And like, I think it was Bill Maher, I can't remember who it was, Bill Maher or someone that was talking about like, why they're not afraid of a Trump presidency. He says, because you know what you're getting with Trump. He's like, I know he's an asshole. I know he says certain things, but I also know he's making the decisions. A Biden presidency scares me more because I don't know who's in control. And for some reason, when I heard that resonates, like, yeah, like that's a really good point, because we don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah, that's I think a huge point in this upcoming election that I hope is landing with a lot of people when they're having that internal debate with themselves. I'm not sure that's entirely happening.
I'm writing in you.
I think the call to personality is so strong right now that it really is about the suit they wear, the analyzing everything they say, how someone's gait is. I mean,
here's what I would say though. If it's truly about the person, look at it objectively. Trump was a billionaire, right? Didn't have to do
as of last week.
Didn't have to do anything, right? He's been through so much shit and he's still going. So to me, whether you love the man or hate the man, I give the man credit for still wanting to fight for this country. Yes, it partially is ego. I get that, right? We've had this discussion
as to why.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, he could literally just be like, guess what? I'm fucking done. I'm going to go move to the Maldives and just fucking live out my life and have a good time. I got all the money. I got my wife. I got my kids. I'm good. To me, it shows, yes, there's an ego side to it, 100%.
Oh, they
absolutely. You have to have that. But I also believe there's something there that he cares about.
Right.
Or you wouldn't put yourself through all these lawsuits, all this political bullshit. Because if he wasn't running, these lawsuits wouldn't be there. We all know that. It's political theater.
Yeah,
it's pretty obvious.
Fuck? Yeah, the late, I think he was a county DA, maybe? Frank Lucchino. Is that name ring a bell? In Allegheny County? I'm dating myself now. Yeah, 30 years ago when I was in politics, Frank Lucchino gave a speech one time, and he said that, first and foremost, he said, if anyone's in politics, no matter what they tell you, the bottom line is all of us in this room, all of us have ego issues. That's why we are here. Denying it is the biggest lie going. Because accept it, understand it, and that's just the reality of it. We like to hear our name called. We like to run. We like the attention. That's part of the political system. There's no sense denying that, right? I mean, it's disingenuous.
It's successful people in general. Like that saying is
and
so
that's
true.
Like
we successful people think they are special, but also think they're wholly inadequate. And that is the dilemma of success. It truly is. Like, I can look at myself, I'm not saying, but I've always thought like I was meant to do something more than just the average thing. But there's every single day I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I feel completely inadequate most days, and that's what drives me to do more. Like, that's where, and I think you have to have that level of crazy in you. You have to have that level of, I think I'm special. I think I'm built different. I think I'm meant for something more. Combined with, I'm wholly inadequate. like I don't deserve where I am
Yeah.
or to have what I have. And that's what that inadequacy
There's a term for
that I
right?
feel every day drives me like a motherfucker.
Yeah, that's like imposter syndrome, right?
The imposter syndrome, but it's the combination of the two, right? Those were like two. I think it was a study they did at Harvard. I think it was, but I can't remember what the third quality was. The three qualities of the most successful people was: one, they think they're special, and two, they think they're wholly inadequate.
Okay.
And it's like, and I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, like I feel that every fucking day.
Yeah, I have tinges of that as well too.
Yeah.
And I just but back on point to though, it's like, of course our politicians have ego issues.
Right, you have to.
But what's amazing though is I would have to say that our internet / especially our social media driven world has brought out the ego issues with most people.
Yes, correct.
It's on display 24/7 now. So it's like it's been normalized.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
You think?
I don't think ego's been normalized. I don't think that people having an ego has been normalized.
Okay.
I think it's become more common. I still don't think it's normal. I still think people think like that's an egotistical prick. Like I still think people will call out someone that's egotistical.
Is the bar been changed though, or has the level been changed? Because the
maybe, but I mean, I still view it the same way I did 10 years ago. Like I still can look at someone and say like, that person's just confident in themselves, or that person's got a fucking ego.
Yeah.
And it's always like we were talking about before the show when it comes
agree.
to certainty, right? Like I always say, people that are so certain about things are the most insecure people I've ever met. Like certainty in their mind gives them confidence and security. It's manufactured. It's manufactured certainty.
Yes.
Because to me, it's like the older I get, the wiser I get, the more I know that I don't know. I'm more uncertain as I get older, right? Because that's experience telling me that. Experience. But think about that though. When you go to the world and your viewpoint widens, right? Your perspective widens, and now it's like, okay, like there's a lot of shit I don't know,
right?
A ton of shit I don't know, and I think there are some people that are just so certain. And I'm like, you are the most insecure person. That you're forcing something on someone.
Couldn't agree more.
That's how I view it.
Couldn't agree more. And you can almost substitute the word narrow in there for certain.
Yeah, the narrow mindset, like a very limited
thought
mindset.
Process, very narrow.
Yeah,
that's pure insecurity.
Yeah, because it is, right? Because they know one thing, they're going to stick to that. Like if someone challenges their sensibilities, it's like, oh shit. It makes them feel icky.
Okay, so let's think about this for a second. So would you admit that it's very rare on the national stage to see a candidate or especially a sitting president ever change course midterm, right? It's like
you'll never see
huge admission of guilt, right? But you do see it if you pay attention. It's just never phrased by their supporters as an admission, as a case in point. So I think the Biden administration is going to change the philosophy on immigration here because the poll numbers are not in his favor, and he's recognizing that. So there looks like to be a change in immigration policy, which to me would be, it'd be stronger for him, in my opinion, to come out and say, hey, maybe we didn't get this right. Maybe we as an administration, maybe there's a lot on my plate, but maybe I, on this particular issue, maybe the public was right in many ways and I just didn't see it, but we're going to correct the issue now. Here's what we're going to do. We've talked about it before, that level of honesty and upfront, and that would change the dynamic. And when it comes to the call to personality, if you did that, you may endear yourself to those people that just look at the man.
Okay.
But you just don't see it happen.
Because timing matters. Do that a year ago, that has impact. Do it now in an election, no one gives a fuck.
Desperate.
It's desperate. It's a strategy, right? If you do it, the timing on those things matters so much, right? Because I think politicians should change policies. They should not be like concrete in their viewpoints. Like be fluid. Like the world changes, right? Things like my viewpoints have changed over the years,
for sure.
But like to do it now, even if there is a good intention behind it, no one's going to believe it. It looks like political strategy.
Theater.
Where, we're less than 12 months out from an election. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to change immigration policy. What about a year ago or 2 years ago? People were kicking and screaming about the same shit. That's the thing. Timing matters. And that the timing is wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just
But I'm just a dude.
a lack of transparency to me. It doesn't help them.
That's why I'm fucking over politics. Like I truly am. Like politics has gotten to the point where it's like there's no right answer anymore. There's no there. It's
because individual realities seem to change constantly.
Yeah, and it's like you can't. It's so hard to decipher anymore. And I think I was talking to someone over the weekend, and I was like, look, in all reality, and this is me being truly honest with myself, does it matter who the president is to me? No, I'm going to do what I do under either administration. I'm still going to find a way to be successful under any type of administration. Do I want one type of presidency over another? Of course I do, right? But I'm also confident enough that if it goes the wrong way, I'll navigate it. I have for the past 3 years. So really, and I think there's a lot of people like that that think this way.
That's called this being a successful entrepreneur.
Well, I think it's just not getting caught up in the noise.
No, it's adjusting to market conditions.
Correct.
Because quite frankly, that's all.
That's all it is.
To change administrations is just basically, in the end, it flushes out to be nothing but a market condition.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And that's 100%. The difference between a business person looking at a presidential election and then the rest of us.
Yeah,
looking at a business.
Yeah, you just find a way to navigate it. Like that's what we do as business people. You just navigate.
I got a very good friend, Jim. He used to say all the time, he goes, I'm just not partaking in the recession. I mean, you all can partake in what you declare to be a recession, but I'm just not partaking in any of that nonsense.
It's a great point.
And he just lives his life and continues to, it doesn't matter. The ups, never too high, never too low.
Yeah, I mean, you can live that way if you. I mean, and that's the thing. It's just you just eliminate the noise. Life gets very easy when you eliminate the noise.
That's a very difficult thing for folks.
It's not though. I know it's difficult for people to do.
It appears to be,
but the actual process of doing it is not difficult. It's hard. It's not difficult. It takes effort, but it's not complex. Like it's literally just focusing.
See, the thing that puzzles me is when I was young, in the age before the internet, when you spoke to someone about the concept of work, something hard. Because I mean, I don't think anyone in my sphere that grew up where I grew up thought that the word work was a positive thing, and we associated work with being difficult. That's just how we grew up. Well, it's like work. Yes, the physical nature of work can be difficult, but thinking, being within your own thoughts, and figuring things out, to me, always landed as like this, not work, just landed as like this interesting way to live. Like thinking was actually fun.
Yeah, I love thinking.
Okay, I think a lot of humans do believe that, but it also seems like we don't do it enough, whether it's our own philosophy, whether it's our own thinking before we make decisions. It seems like we don't think enough anymore, and then we label it as thinking is hard work. We've now really flipped the script on the idea of just thinking for better decision making. We've flipped the script now. It's almost like we don't.
People are reactionary now. We react to the environment instead of creating the environment. Like that's really what it is.
We don't believe it's possible. You think there's a great portion of the population doesn't believe that creating their own environment is not possible. I have to deal with what's being spoon fed to me and make decisions all day.
That's an excuse. That's victim mentality in my mind. Like you control your environment. Like if you don't see that, like read Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles. You are 100% responsible for everything that does or does not happen in your life. Truly, you are. Like if you don't have something you want, you haven't figured out how to get it yet. You haven't done the work to get it yet. The problem is the work is what is the variable that most people don't like, because it takes fucking effort. Like I just sent a video to one of my friends earlier today. He was talking, one of our mutual friends, I'm not going to say it, but he was complaining about something. I'm like, and I sent him this video from TikTok, and it talks about like why leaders are leaders. And it was like, leaders do more than they're expected to do. Leaders work for more than they're paid. Like that's what it is. And he's like, so many people come, I don't get paid to do that. I don't get paid enough to do that. Like I'll do that when I get paid. Like that's not leadership. I remember when I left a big firm and went into corporate America, took a huge pay cut to go into corporate America. And I said, fuck it. Like, I'll prove myself. Like, I didn't go in there and beg for raises. I didn't say I'm going to work hard when I make more money. I worked like I made $200,000 a year when I made $60,000 a year. And eventually I got there. Like that's what you have to do. But people don't want to do the work, which is the variable. Like that's the shit that's hard, right? You have to put in that little bit extra. But too many people think now that because they look at companies, oh, companies make all this money, right? Oh, they're all this profit, all this and that. And it's like, okay, I'm only going to work what I'm paid to do. It's like, then you're only ever going to get paid what you get paid. Like, if you want to make more money, prove your value. Like, that's any industry. Like, I tell this to Gabe. I'm like, dude, when you get out into the world, right? Whether you go into law school, become a lawyer, you want to make a shit ton of money, work like you deserve that money when you're making peanuts. Because if you do that, it'll be very easy to get there because you'll be head and shoulders above most people.
100%.
Because most people don't want to do that effort that's required because it's fucking hard. And it's not something you do once and put it away and come back. It's every single day. When I went into corporate America, every single day for years, I busted my ass to get to where I got. And I had to do because I was proving myself. I didn't think I deserved anything. I said, I will earn it and I will prove to them what I'm worth. And that's exactly what I did. But I didn't go in there with the mentality, I'm only going to do the bare minimum. I'm getting paid less than I was at a law firm. I'm only going to do what they pay me for. It's like, no. I'm going to show them that they're underpaying me.
Exactly right.
And that's what you got to do. And that work is the variable.
That's exactly right. And it's for me, it's just that Rohn quote I heard when I was a child. You know, you're paid for the value you bring to the hour.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And I think that's a great thing. And that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But that's what needs to be, I believe, needs to be taught to young people entering the workforce. You're paid for the value you bring in, nothing else. Nothing else. It isn't the $10 or $20 an hour you make. It's the value you bring to your employer.
The value you bring to the
there's
hour.
a pot of gold over here available to you.
Yeah.
But you got to be valuable. You got to be valuable.
There's enough money out in the world for everybody to be and make whatever they want. But you've got to reverse engineer how to do it, and it takes effort to do. Like you have to understand that you're not going to get paid more because you just exist or because you just do the bare minimum. You will get paid more by clients, by your employer, by whomever when you give more value than for what you're paid.
Yes.
If you're paid $100,000, but you bring $250,000 of value to that company, eventually you're going to make $250,000. It's just the way it works.
Yes. And that goes to another very long and deep conversation. We will not go down that rabbit hole, but it talks about, the union mentality versus the non-union mentality. And we're not demonizing unions. We're not demonizing unions. We're just saying that there's a mentality that goes to the right to the dollar per hour. And then the other mentality is the value I'm going to bring to the hour to show that I'm worth more than I am.
Exactly
and
right.
It's just, that mindset is, and that's mindset's changed over time. Do you think it's harder today to get sub 35-year-old folks to understand that they need to be as valuable as they can be for their circumstances?
No, I think I don't think it's based upon age. I think it's just there's in all generations. It's not generational.
No, I don't believe it is either.
No, because I think there are plenty of people that are young, that are workhorses that get it and understand it, and they're just in the thick of it. And I think there are people that are our age that just don't fucking get it.
Well, we could probably remember a few growing up.
I know people that I'm friends with that have always said that. Oh well, I only get paid to do this. It's like, well, that's why you get paid that. Like when that statement comes out of your mouth, well, I only get paid to do this. Then what do you think? They're just going to pay you more because? Like, no, bring more value to the position and you will get paid more. Like, that's really what it boils down to.
100%. And
if the employer doesn't, you're at the wrong employer.
That's exactly right.
Because a good employer will see your value. It may not happen over, and that's the thing too. It may not happen overnight. Like, that's the other thing too. We have this immediacy. Like, we want instant gratification. I worked hard for a month. Where's my raise? It's like, no. Like, put in the time and effort. You'll get it. But it's not just a 1 day or a 1 month or a 3 month thing. Right. It's effort consistently over time.
Well, certainly. And I always, when I was younger,
Mhm.
working for corporate America, I could see a pathway. I could say, well, I know that the job requires this amount. I
Mhm.
also know how I can do a little more every day to build like some. I was actually creating my own internal. I used to call it my own internal resume within that company,
Okay.
and I'm actually scoring points. I mean, it's kind of crazy. That's how I, in my mind, I
Yeah.
would say I'm scoring points. I'm putting more hours here. I'm doing this. I'm showing that I'm more valuable. I'm willing to do this for this other department, and that's
Mhm.
visible. I want to go do that.
Yeah.
I want to show them that I am worth more than this position I'm in the 8 hours that I sit answering these phones.
Yeah.
And that was the liftoff for me, was like, wow, and it works.
Mhm.
And I think that's powerful. Once you see as a young person,
Exactly.
it works.
Yes.
My whole philosophy was set then. When it
Yep.
comes to corporate America, when it comes to getting paid for the job that I was hired to do,
Mhm.
it changed early, and it's never failed me.
No, but again, I think a lot of people, because I was in corporate America, I remember people that they thought they were working hard because they were just there for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to be putting in the actual effort. The time doesn't matter.
Instead of putting in time, that's the most
right.
to me, that's always the most dangerous statement in any corporate culture at all.
Correct.
I'm just putting in time, putting in my time, putting in my 8 hours a day. I gotta get that paycheck, putting in my 8 hours.
I'd rather someone be super fucking productive in 6 hours than someone who just comes in for 8 and to just be.
Or give the illusion that they're
exactly.
Because oftentimes, what's the statistic? I mean, most employers, they pay for the 8-hour workday and they end up getting a fraction of that.
Oh, like probably a third of it is probably what it boils down to. Absolutely. Like I remember when I was in corporate America, just how many people, fucked around like all day. Like, and I'm not saying I'm sure I did at some points in time. Right. But it's like, there was no real, because when you're in environments like that, if there's not good leadership, right, and there's not good motivators, and there's not inspirational people within an organization, it's hard for people to want to work that way, right? I think because what's the point, right? If there's no one at the top leading and motivating, I think that's a big problem in corporate America right now.
Do we expect less out of our politicians today because we maybe expect less out of our own?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. I think we expect less out of ourselves these days.
Mm-hmm.
So it reflects on our decision making.
Or else we're also, I guess, we're more quote unquote forgiving of their inability to get things done, or more forgiving of their own indiscretions. Or,
I mean, politicians are the mirror of the American people when you think about it. In most instances, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's who we elect is a mirror of who we are.
That's a fascinating. I mean, I'm sure some psychiatrists and psychology folks have taken some deep dives on that.
I'm sure of it.
Because they used to say when Trump won in 2016, like he won. The theory was that he won a lot of votes because he could hold the mirror up like this, and basically looking at him, was a reflection of our own inadequacies or our own character faults.
Yeah, and people, and it made people be okay with it. That's really what it was. I mean, that was kind of the stuff they were talking about then, that he was the mirror to middle America and to people's inadequacies. So people felt comfortable voting for him because it's like they made their inadequacies feel okay. And again, like I think it shouldn't be that way. And I think we should truly, like, we shouldn't be pointing out flaws of people. Like we need to get back to being better human beings. I believe that. Like I truly believe that. The problem with the internet and social media and just media in general is it's attack-based media. Like when you think about it, like if you go home and turn on the TV, how often do you hear good stories or inspiring stories? Right? It's people attacking one another. It's pointing out what people didn't do or the flaws they have. I mean, that's social media, right? People do that all the time. For what? It makes them feel good. Who gives a shit? If you need to attack other people to feel good, then you've got bigger problems. That's how I look at it. I just think we just need to get back in this country to just being good human beings. Leading with that.
We have this fascination to know so much about the people we see. We just have this fascination that we have a right to know so much about people because they're on Facebook, and this is their kids, and this is where they live, and this is what they do, and this is their hobbies, and this is what they work. that's become a norm.
Yeah.
So naturally, when we see people out there that are not revealing a lot of that,
Yeah.
whether politicians, sports, entertainment, we feel now we have a right to know all that stuff. We have a right to dig down. And obviously, if you start doing the dig, you're going to find, we're humans. We have human frailties. You're going to find things that are going to rub people the wrong way. It's just, that's just going to happen.
It's human nature. No one's perfect. And if you think you're perfect, you're wrong. Like, and that's the problem. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like I've gotten to this point where it's like, you start looking at the world differently, and you start seeing that, people's first instinct is to attack or berate or talk down or throw negativity. And when that's people's first reaction, like, that's a sad state of affairs that we're in. Like, take social, like, you watch any social media, like, I'll go and just, watch videos on YouTube and just see people's comments. It's like, really, dude? Like, you're a comment warrior? Like, go find something better to do with your time. Like, especially from us, like, people that these people have never met, they've never come in contact with, but yet these people feel the need to go onto someone's YouTube video or Facebook page and just throw hateful or rude comments. For what? What's the point? Like, they have many inadequacies that they're trying to mask by doing that, in my opinion.
Especially because I'm going to venture to say that, a good portion of these people doing that don't have the courage to actually do anything similar in a personal setting.
That's exactly right. Like, there's the courage is gone. Because my thing is, like, I would never in a million years go and attack somebody who's trying to do something. Like, that's amazing. Like, do you, man? That's what this world's about. Like, taking chances. And, like, I'm not going to ever bash anybody for trying to put themselves out there. You always find that people that are always commenting and making rude comments on these social media pages, what are they doing? Nothing significant, right? Most of them aren't putting any content out there. They're going on and bashing other people's content because it makes them feel good about themselves, because misery loves company. Let's bring somebody down to my level. And again, like, that's where we are in America, and it's a shame. Like, it's a shame.
It really is about destroying the other person.
Yeah, I mean, why?
Well, it's like, take the two candidates now. It really, if you are hypothetically, regardless of what you classify yourself, I'm Republican, I am right wing, I am a gun supporter, I'm pro Trump, whatever you are, you're obviously going to be on a certain team.
Sure.
Instead of doing your best to get this person elected for these philosophical reasons, it really is about how to potentially get our person elected by destroying the other person.
That's the problem. Like, I would love to see any election. It could be a local election where two candidates get up there and speak highly of one another, but debate policy.
That's how they should just start off the debates. It's like the first question to be, what do you admire about the person running against you? Make them say things.
Right. Because again, we're all humans, right? And I believe human beings are good by nature. It's society and the environment that corrupts us.
I believe so as
well.
I
believe that. And people that err on the side of negativity have had some sort of harm or some sort of trauma that has caused them to be that way. I believe that. That's just, again, I'm not
I think you're
a
right.
psychologist. I'm not. I just think there is something there, because
I think you're right.
Like, there's not one time in my life that I can remember, maybe there has been, where my inclination was to attack somebody, like, that I don't know, right? That did nothing to me, caused me no harm, caused me no mental anguish, never went onto a page and watched a video or read a comment or read somebody's post and said, I'm just going to say something fucking mean. Like, just because. Don't know this person, don't agree with it. I'm going to let this person know how stupid they are. I would never do that. Like, everybody has their opinions. Like, unless you are a perfect human being, like, no one has the right to do that. Like,
oh, there's some people out there that think they are. I'm sure somewhere.
No, I always say I'm the most flawed person there is, and I welcome criticism. I welcome constructive feedback. And I think we should all be open to do that. But the problem is, I think people aren't open to do that because people are not inclined to give constructive feedback. They're inclined to attack what you're doing.
Yeah, that's our default.
Yeah, it really is. And that's a shame. Like, think about where we are as a society, where our default is to attack. not to help one another.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have to get to a point where instead of pointing out what fucking people are doing wrong or what we don't like, how can we help that person?
Absolutely right.
How can we help the person
Absolutely
become
right.
better?
Absolutely
How
right.
can we help each other? Like that's what blows my mind in society today. Like that's why I love watching those sports videos where you see someone like fall in a race and then a competitor
Grabs
come
them.
and pick them up and help them. Like that's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need people to do shit like that. Pick up your fellow neighbor, help them. Like be the example for society. Be the example for your kids.
Well, man, there's so many ways you can go with this. The one thing that always puzzled me too is all the missed opportunities in politics by trying to truly be a person who not only says, well, I represent my entire district or I represent the entire country. I might be a Republican or I might be a Democrat, but once I'm elected, I truly represent. You know what? Put your money where your mouth is,
Yeah,
and should do something strategic. Let's say President Biden wins re-election. Why not look at that cabinet and maybe pick 2 or 3 chairs and go on the Republican side of the aisle and find people that are good humans.
Yeah.
They may not completely agree with him philosophically, but you think they have something to offer. And if nothing else, show an outward sign that the break in partisan operations, might be changing some, right?
Yeah.
It's a small thing. You're still going to have your people. You're still going to have the dominance of, for 4 years, you carry that branch of government. But it's really an olive branch to try to work together. If your Congress won't do it, why can't we get the president maybe start the process there?
Well, think about it this way, right? The best leaders in the private sector, right, don't surround themselves with yes people. They surround themselves with people that challenge them, because leadership is hard and you have to be challenged. But yet we get into politics in the government. We just surround ourselves with people, or they surround themselves with people that just agree with them.
They want to live in an echo chamber.
Right. And it's like, that's not how, like the best leaders, like leadership is uncomfortable. Leadership is hard. Like I don't want people in my firm that just agree with me. Like that, because I don't fucking know what I'm doing sometimes. Most of the time, I don't know what I'm doing.
100%.
I want people to challenge my sensibilities, to
100%.
push me, to tell me I'm an idiot, to like have those debates and like have those fruitful discussions that lead to solutions. We should do that in politics. Like that could change the country in a matter of 2 presidents or 2 presidential terms. I think you could totally shift the way the country's running by bringing people in that they don't have to be Republicans or whatever, but just people that differ in opinion and will challenge the president, like truly challenge the president.
I would think that he or she would want people in the rooms to give all perspectives. I'm not really certain, though, most of our national politicians want differing opinions around them.
No, they don't. They definitely don't, because it's uncomfortable. But again, like I said, leadership is the most uncomfortable. Like I'm learning that now, running this firm. I'm fucking uncomfortable every day. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And the more people we get, the harder it's going to get, and the more uncomfortable it is. And I think politicians, they like, you said, the echo chamber. We like to insulate ourselves. We don't want to have that uncomfort. Like the uncomfortness was the election cycle. I'm in now. Like I want to bring, my buddy Joe, my buddy Sarah, like, let's bring these people in. You're just going to, rubber stamp what I think. Like, that's what happens in politics. I think that's why we have these problems, because it's like, well, now we got to change everything because we don't have anything that's bipartisan. So we got to change it. New president comes in, new administration. Let's fuck everything up and change it all.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the victor goes the spoils. It doesn't mean that the party that wins cannot have their era of running and trying to get legislation passed. But in terms of showing the American people, truly showing that there's a want to negotiate, to hear different opinions. There's a true want to this. Yeah. It would not take much, but it never seems to happen.
It's never going to happen in our lifetime, I don't think. I don't foresee it happening in our lifetime. And that's an unfortunate statement, but that's just my belief, my perception.
Yeah, it's very odd. It's very sad. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, one of the I've said it before that this podcast is going to be 5 years old here next month. Hard to believe.
No.
But some of the greatest conversations I've had, I've told you many times, Rocco, is when I intentionally invited people that I thought were involved in things I didn't understand, or were very vocal about their beliefs. And I thought, that really rubs against what I think is, my sensibilities. I'm going to go talk to that person.
Fucking UFOs, man.
Well, yeah. Or you invite somebody in and to listen, and actively listen and interested in what they really mean. I've changed my mind on not many, but a few things, but I really have a different now I understand on these issues, their perspective.
Yeah. And that's
instead of having my own selfish perception of it.
Correct. I mean, and that's what we have to do in life, right? Our perception is how we feel about something, right? Perspective is how we observe it from either ourselves, from someone else's viewpoint, or from just a purely objective standpoint. I think if you start looking at things from a perspective basis, it makes life easier. It helps you solve problems quicker, right? Because like they always say, like, you never know what's going on in a person's life. Like, I remember seeing a video, this was years ago, like there's a man on the subway and his kids are just acting a fool. And this woman's or someone's next time, they're like, can you just control your kids? And the man's like, I'm so sorry. We just left the hospital. My wife passed away. And like, that's the perfect example of it, right? Like, this person had a perception of his kids are being an asshole. This is a terrible parent. When if you take a step back and put yourself in their shoes, the perspective is his wife just passed away. He doesn't even know what to do with himself. He's just trying to get his kids home. And like, if we started doing that in life and try to look at things from the other person's perspective instead of our own feelings and perception, I think we'd solve a lot more problems a lot faster. Yeah,
we've elevated the importance of our own reality above everything else. That's not the most kind way to maneuver in society.
Absolutely. And the thing is too, like, when you get into, like, even if like Laura and I would get into an argument about something, like, I had sometimes take a step back and look at it from her perspective. Like, I'm looking at it from my own perception, right? Like, how I feel about a situation. But then if I take a step back and say, well, maybe there's something going on in her life that I have to understand a little bit better. And I think if you do that, it makes things, it helps solve problems so much faster and not even eliminate problems before they even happen, right? But we're going to get very caught up as human beings in our own perception of the way a situation is. But if we just learn to take ourselves out and take the other person's perspective, right? It changes things. It really does.
Yeah. And see, again, that goes back to thinking, which I've always contemplating. I've just always enjoyed this. To me, it's like, if I go to try to figure out someone else's perspective, that's like a game to me, like a mental game. I'm going to spend the effort and time to do it because I find it interesting, but also it yields a more positive result.
Yeah. Like I'll give you an example. Like, in my office, like this was like a week ago, people thought I was like angry for some reason. This one day, I was just hungry. I was literally just hungry. I was angry, and I had a bunch of shit to do that day. But because I was being quiet, like, they had their own perception of me. So they were like, "Oh, what's wrong with him? Is something bad? Is he mad about something?" It's like, no, guys. Like, I just fucking forgot my lunch, and I don't want to eat the bullshit we have here. I'm starving, and I got a bunch of shit to do. Like, that's it. But no one put themselves in, looked at it from my perspective. It was their own perception of me. And so they start forming their own opinions.
It's telling, isn't it?
I just popped in my head as we were talking about something. Like, I remember this. I can't remember who I had the conversation with. It's like, it is, because we always are looking at things from our own perception. And that was the perfect example, because I'm the last person in the office to get mad about anything. Like, I'm pretty much the most laid back person. I get hungry. And when I get hungry, I get cranky. I'm not mad at anybody. It's just like, I want food.
It's hangry.
I want food. I want food. So that particular week or that particular day, like, I was just quiet, and I was in my office, and I was just doing work. Because I'm like, I'm really hungry. I don't want to go out there because everybody's eating food, or there's bullshit food in the kitchen that I don't want to eat. And people were like literally whispering to each other, like, is he mad? What's he mad about? Like, what's wrong? What's bothering? I was like, guys, just someone get me a fucking chicken breast and some rice. We'll be good. But no one looked at it from my perspective. It was just like, everybody's, has their own perception.
Now they know.
Right.
Now they know.
It's like, hey, just bring me in some chicken and rice.
Yeah, the acts that way now.
Right. But that's a simple example.
Big grill or something.
We have to look at things from the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
Like we really, in all aspects of life. Like if something's wrong with my kids and they're not, they're maybe they're just stressed about something, or maybe they're just tired. Like it has nothing to do with them being mad at me or I said something that bothered them. Maybe it's just that, but I got to put myself in their shoes to try and determine that.
I think of a time when I was younger, just entering the workforce, working with a bunch of people older than I. My life was different then. I worked with older people. Now I'm surrounded by younger people. There was a person that I perceived that always was curt and stern and everything all the time, demeanor, very businesslike, non-personal, which kind of went against my happy-go-lucky nature. And I had internally a negative view toward them. I certainly didn't express that in reality. I was very kind and, I had to do what I had to do. But I had this negative feeling for years until I found an opportunity to have a beer with this gentleman.
Yeah.
And then I learned a little bit about his life, and he had buried his wife the prior year. He had lost his mother and dad to a car accident. And these things, I think, they might not have been the whole story of his demeanor, but certainly it played into it. And I saw how he never missed a day of work. He was Mr. Reliable. I couldn't have fathom how he actually never missed a day of work and went through all of that.
Yeah.
As a single, middle-aged man. And as soon as I understood the backstory, and I tried to, in my young 22-year-old body, put myself in his shoes. I don't know if I possibly could have handled it.
Yeah.
It was so telling.
Yes.
It was so telling.
Like everybody has a story, and we're just not inclined to try and understand what the story is. Like there could be days where like I'm worried about something, with my parents, or something else is going on. And if I may just be quiet that day,
certainly,
just because I'm just trying to like focus. And if people don't put themselves in my shoes, they just assume I'm angry about something, or they assume they did something to make me upset. When I'm like, no one here.
That's a big one.
It is, but it happens more frequently than you would imagine, especially with someone like me. Like and people in my office tell me that. It's like, I just think, I don't know why, but they have this perception of me that if I'm quiet, or if I'm not engaging like I normally do, that I'm mad at someone for something. Sometimes I just get very focused, and I'm in my head, and I have a lot of things that I'm dealing with that I don't even burden anybody else in the office with. I take on myself. That sometimes causes me to be a little bit introverted and be self-reflective.
Certainly.
And not, but it's like, then everybody's worrying, like, what's he mad about? Like, what did I do? Did I do something? I'm like, no.
I think that's part of the human condition.
Right.
I think a lot of humans internalize other people's different types of behavior as something personal.
Yes. That's exactly. Yes. And if Laura's listening to this, like, I'm going to say it, but she, and we've had this discussion in the past. And
don't worry, Laura, I'm guilty of it.
She's recognized it, but it's good because, and I've told her, I said, I'm just asking a question, and it has nothing to do, but her natural inclination was to think she did something wrong.
For sure.
When she didn't at all. Like, I love her to death. She didn't do anything wrong. It was just, I'm asking a question, and she thinks because I'm asking the question that she must have did something wrong. Like, no, I'm just literally trying to get information. Like, I just like facts.
I think it's a very common human frailty.
It is. I mean, we're flawed by nature, us humans.
You would think Kim and I went to psychiatry school.
I do have a psychology degree.
Well, there you go. I do not.
I mean, it's not a good one, but it's a degree.
I have no degree. But here I am.
You have a degree from the School of Hard Knocks, my friend.
Yeah, man. Life. The real life. All right, friend. Yes. I don't know if we hit too many current events this week, but it was a good show.
Talk about politics a lot, so that was a lot of current events.
Yeah, we did. There you go. Isn't that all current events tend to be for people?
Exactly.
All right. Until next week.
Yep.
We are out.
Cool. Let me turn this off.